my god, here we are. Here we fucking are. We fucking did it. Go ahead and turn that desktop shit up. Two people watching. What? No way. Okay. Oh wait. Okay. Is this? Fucking new, and I just need to start recording.
So, I got a big news day for you. So, we will be talking in just a little bit about the Fox News Dominion lawsuit and what happened on that front. Interesting end result, man. Interesting end result. We were this close to getting to trial, and then there was a settlement at the last second. How much is it? What does it all mean? I'll break all that down for you. We actually have some breaking news that I can't wait to dive into, which is Jordan Peterson comes after Marianne Williamson. And you know what? It doesn't go too well for him. So I'm going to lead with that in just a second. We have Bernie Sanders debating Jen Psaki on her new MSNBC show, and a MAGA superstar, one of the big guys who led the whole, like, Stop the Steal effort, and also partook in that anti-groomer crusade. Apparently he's a groomer, and he was asking underage boys for dick pics. Okay, so we'll get to that and much, much more. Alright, so, Jordan Peterson decided, I'm gonna go after Marianne Williamson today. Ever since he moved to the Daily Wire, you know, it's no secret and no surprise to anybody. He's continued to move further and further and further right. He's feeding that audience what they want to hear. You know, he's aligned himself with Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and people like that. And this is something, remember, guys, back in, like, 2017, Jordan Peterson fancied himself, I wouldn't say he was apolitical, but he was more apolitical than he is now, and he focused more on his, like, self-improvement stuff and his psychology stuff, and that's just not the case anymore. Now he's a crusading right-winger. Now, he may take issue with that description, but I think just an objective analysis of the things he talks about and the issues he cares about, I think it's empirically correct to say he's a right-wing crusader. So he decides, he sees this Marianne Williamson tweet, I guess it pops up on his timeline, and the Marianne Williamson tweet says, "We need a World War II level mass mobilization to address climate change on a fundamental level."
Doing bad.
Okay?
Real bad.
So I'll play a little bit of that for you here, and then we'll get to his response.
Climate change is the greatest moral challenge of our generation.
Do we need a Green New Deal? Oh, you betcha we need a Green New Deal. But we need a Green New Century.
We need to do more than mitigate the effects of climate change. We need to recognize it as the existential threat to the species that it actually is.
There's a reason why we are not adequately dealing with the climate crisis, and that is because of the obstruction from fossil fuel companies.
We need to sequester the carbon. We need the reforestation processes. We need to develop sustainable energy, sustainable transportation, and we need to deal with animal factory farming as well.
We would have, if I were President of the United States, a world-class environmentalist at the head of the EPA.
We have to recognize the destruction of our environment as an ongoing process.
So you guys get the gist of it. These are all really, really unobjectionable things, right? He chimes in and says, "Your Democrat candidate's in action. Everything is in apocalyptic crisis. Give us all the power now.
Oh my
Nothing
God.
suspicious about that."
I was so bad at that.
Okay. So before I get to her reaction, this first comment is really telling to me. This person says,
Dude, why can't I
power
fucking
and money.
drift right?
Don't forget the money.
What the fuck?
It is hilariously ironic that they bring that up as a criticism of Marianne Williamson. Why? Well, Marianne responded to Jordan Peterson. She says,
Oh, what the
"You've
fuck?
inverted the conspiracy. Big
See,
Oil
I
has
keep-
all the
yeah.
power and wants to keep it.
I don't even know what this
It does
is.
so in part by funding junk science peddlers." And then there's a link here to an article, which title is, "Jordan Peterson's climate expert is science denier funded by oil-backed think tank." The Canadian
Yes, sir.
author
That's
has
actually
cited
crazy.
S. Fred Singer, an American physicist who argued climate change was natural after telling podcast host Joe Rogan that climate change could not be modeled accurately. So you guys remember when he did, he went on Rogan's show and was basically saying climate change is a bunch of garbage,
Fucking God,
and
bro.
Joe Rogan was even pushing back on him quite a bit. Well, look, the point Marianne Williamson is making here is exactly correct. He's inverted the conspiracy. In his mind, it's like, oh, these nefarious Democrats are trying to
Goddamn.
control every aspect of
Trash.
your life, and they're just power
Garbage.
hungry, and so that's what's going on here. They
Garbage.
don't actually believe in climate change. They don't think it's a thing. They're not trying to fight back against it. Again, you want to talk about straw manning your opponents? That's as big of a straw man as I can imagine. So none of them really believe it. None of them really think it's real. It's all just a power grab. The real conspiracy is the one that's out in the open if you follow the money, which is that big oil and the fossil fuel industry, through lobbying, they pay the politicians, they fund their campaigns, and then when the politicians get in office, they do the bidding of big oil. Now, part and parcel of that is what? They also fund junk science peddlers. They fund pundits and commentators and
I fucking
experts
actually hate getting
who
bananas.
argue that, bro, this isn't a big deal. What are you even talking about?
What the
Guys, I'm not
fuck,
kidding.
bro?
There's some of the same people who in the 1970s and
I don't even
1980s
know
were
how to do that.
arguing, cigarettes
trying to
don't cause
fucking-
cancer, bro. Cigarettes don't even cause cancer. We don't even know what you guys are talking about, bro. They had experts and scientists and doctors who would argue this in front of congressional committees. The same group
Dude, it can't
that
be this way. on,
funded
like, a
that
real
effort
search.
is also funding the effort to say, climate change is like whatever, bro. It's no big deal. It's like totally natural and stuff. I don't even know why you guys are like being all crazy. You guys are actually the science deniers, man. It's not us. Don't look at who
Oh
we're
my
funded by. I think, by the way, I think the
fucking
name of that group that funded both the, cigarettes don't cause cancer people and the climate change is fake people, I think it's the American Heartland Institute. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys. I might be butchering it because I'm doing this by memory, but it's literally some of the same people who are making the arguments. And Jordan Peterson has the nerve to argue that the real conspiracy
fuck
is
is
that
this?
power-hungry Marianne Williamson is trying to control every aspect of your life. Marianne Williamson, by the way, when it comes to social issues, she's
Bam,
totally
pussy.
live and let live. You want to smoke weed? Go ahead and smoke weed. Should women have control of their bodies? You're damn right they should have control of their bodies. We're talking about a person who on social issues is very libertarian in the sense that it's like, hey man, you do what you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But that person is power hungry
What is
and
this?
is trying to control your life. No, what she's trying to do is make
Oh,
it so
actually, I
that
fucking didn't mean to do it that third
we
time.
don't lose New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't go underwater. There aren't wars over water. There isn't extreme drought.
Yeah.
All right, now by the way, I jumped in on this
Come
as
on,
well.
baby.
Said
Yes.
Jordan Peterson apparently sees no issue with these things, but is terrified if people want to fix it. So what am I sharing here? The following articles. The
Fuck.
Middle East is
Fuck.
becoming literally uninhabitable. One of the regions hardest hit by climate change is also one least equipped to deal with it. This is from that far left outlet known as Foreign Policy.
9.
I say that, of course, tongue-in-cheek, because
Embarrassing,
they're
bro.
not even on the left.
Embarrassing.
All right, next. How water shortages are brewing wars. This is something we've warned about for a while. In the developing world, you're going to have wars over water. From the Los Angeles Times, the Colorado River is drying up. Climate change and drought have taken a major toll. The Colorado River has been shrinking. Climate change and 2 decades of drought have sapped the river at its source in the Rocky Mountains. It's less than half of what it should be, the Colorado River. Nothing to see there, right? Heat waves driven by climate change have cost the world $16 trillion since the 90s.
That's
So yeah, Jordan Peterson looks at this and doesn't see a problem. He looks at this and says, no, the real problem is that some people want to try to fix it. Some people want to eventually transition off of fossil fuels and get us to clean and renewable energy. Well, that's why, again, Marianne Williamson is exactly correct. This point is exactly correct. He's inverted the conspiracy. Big oil has the money, the fossil fuel industry has the money and power, and they have bought influence. And guys, think about it. In order for them to win the debate, all they have to do is insist there's still a debate. I mean, sure, some people say climate change is real, other people say it's not, and other people say it's happening, but it's natural, so we should probably just do nothing in the meantime. We should do nothing. Well, then they win the debate, because we don't do mass mobilization, we don't actually, treat it like a World War II level issue, which it is.
I'm dying. This is awful.
And Jordan Peterson,
I'm in the 8th fucking
look, I don't know
place.
where he gets his funding from, other than the Daily Wire, of course, right? But certainly, at the very least, the guy who takes his word as gospel is funded by big oil.
Yes!
That's the conspiracy, Jordan. That's the conspiracy.
Fucking
so you have Marianne Williamson,
bitch!
Honestly, obliterate Jordan
I didn't mean to do
Peterson
too!
here, but he's not done. So he quote-tweeted his own tweet going after Marianne Williamson and said, apparently the Democrats are... I like how he tagged every single, Democratic political arm. The Senate Democrats, the House Democrats, and the Democrats. He says, apparently the Democrats are capable of fielding worse candidates than Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom. And that's quite the anti-miracle. How little do you have to know about Democratic politics
I'm sort of
to make the argument
getting a
that
little
the
bit
Democratic
better in the
Party,
rhythm.
the leadership structure, that's who you're tagging? To argue they want Marianne Williamson? How little do you know about the internal factions among the Democrats to make an argument like that?
I forgot I got some shit I got.
Not only did they not field her, they're actively trying to snuff her campaign out in the crib. As anybody who's paying even the tiniest amount of attention to the way this works knows. So look, this is just, to me, this is just, forget evidence. This is proof. He has no idea what he's talking about. In terms of, I mean, obviously the climate change stuff made that point anyway, but to know this little about the factions on which you're commenting is embarrassing. The Democratic Party is fielding Marianne Williamson. They would rather field Donald Trump than Marianne Williamson.
Boost either. It's another thing.
There's no doubt about it. Again, embarrassing.
So
look,
this
Jordan,
is low-key
I know you're
the
with the
best.
Daily Wire now. I know you're buddy with Ben Shapiro
Fuck
and Matt
nostalgia.
Walsh.
Fuck everything.
But,
This is the best one.
you should try to be at least somewhat subtle about your movement to the right. Not this sprinting like Usain Bolt at 100 miles an hour to the right as far as you can go.
That's the best one.
Where, anything involved with the left, anything involved with the Democrats, it's a conspiracy, it's nefarious, they're bad actors.
What the fuck is happening?
It's just comical. And again, I find it hilarious from the people who like to argue. How many times have you heard them make this point?
It's like accelerate.
You should steel man your opponent, not straw man your opponent. Because engaging honestly is to steel man their position. There's nothing steel manny at all about this point. Your Democrat candidates in action. Everything is in apocalyptic crisis. Give us all the power now. Nothing suspicious about that. Well, Jordan, I hate to break it to you, but it's fair to call this an apocalyptic crisis. And the problem with the power is that big oil and the fossil fuel industry has it all, and they'd rather see the planet burn for profits than fix it.
Catch me up. Yes.
So again, is this a problem or not? The Middle East is becoming literally uninhabitable. Water shortages are brewing wars. The Colorado River is drying up. Heat waves driven by climate change have cost the world $16 trillion since the 90s.
Need fucking water, bro.
Anyway, there you have it. Marianne Williamson doing a great job crushing his climate science denial. And Jordan, you might want to brush up a little bit on the internal factions within the Democrats before you pretend like
Listen, fifth
Nancy
place, we're taking
Pelosi
it.
and Joe Biden are recruiting Marianne Williamson? Beyond laughable. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
There's two things we gotta do though. One is mute the game real quick. Just for a second. Because an hour ago this came out. And I haven't...
Punch it! You know, we'd already be there if Roman wasn't driving Ford Knox on wheels.
Ugh.
You see me shining, baby? We're locked inside!
How do you not understand what this franchise is? It's fucking perfect. They just don't give a fuck.
It's a trap.
That's the bomb. All right, dorks, what are we blowing up? What? The Vatican? Wow, you guys are going to hell. The great Dom Toretto. If you never would have gotten behind that wheel, I'd never be the man I am today. And now, I am the man. I'd never be the man I am today.
Dude.
And now, I am the man who's going to break your
I
family.
love it.
Piece by piece.
The devil's coming.
The devil.
Tommy, I knew you would come for me. So how about we all just start shooting each other? Time to end this.
Dude,
Let's dig some graves.
Jason Momoa's character looks like a different character in every cut. Every time they cut to him, he's a different character.
You are not to be trusted.
Hey, you ain't on my Christmas list either.
Cavalry's here.
Cheers. We need weapons and cars.
Cannon cars. You like surprises? I adore them.
I'd stay down if I was you.
You'll need to hit me harder for that.
The game's over, Dom. You lose. This is your last ride.
Dude.
Then you might want to buckle up.
I fucking forgot he has a kid.
Then you might want to buckle up.
So he does this with his kid in the car? This is with his kid in the car? He's like, there's no other way. Tires on fire, bro. Who watches that and isn't like, yes, give me 2 hours of this, please. It's so great. There's so many fucking people in it. Just all love, bro. I'm gonna fast 10 my seatbelt. Alright. Beautiful. We're excited. Okay. I did define.
So we have some giant news here in the world of the media. We just witnessed the largest settlement in media history. Now, this is just a absolutely devastating outcome for Fox News. I'm talking, of course, about the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News over their repeated misinformation and disinformation about the rigged election, stolen election, stop the steal type stuff. Well, Dominion sued and said, this is defamation. Not only are you wrong, you are lying and doing it on purpose, and it has hurt us as a business, and we can prove it. So we were about to enter day one of the court proceedings. And at the very last second, Fox News cried uncle. Now, some people have mixed feelings on this, and I understand that. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We'll discuss that in a little bit. But first, let me give you the breakdown. So this is in Mediaite. Apparently, the lawyers for the Dominion side says, we're not done yet. Dominion attorney says some other people have accountability coming after massive Fox settlement. So the way I read that is, they might sue other public figures who are very vociferously denying the results of the election and smearing them by name. Now, there's also another angle to it, which is there's an even bigger lawsuit that's proceeding against Fox News. This was the Dominion case. There's also the Smartmatic case. Smartmatic is, of course, one of the other voting machine companies. And they said, hey, you're lying about us, and it's nefarious, it's on purpose. And I think it's like $2.7 billion they're asking for. Now, in this case, the Dominion people were asking for $1.6 billion. What's the final result? What did they get in the settlement before going to trial? They got $787.5 million, and they got Fox News to do a mealy-mouthed apology as well. Okay, so let's read some of this here. Actually, let's listen to the Dominion lawyers first, just to see what they...
Yo, this motorcycle's responding way better than me.
Hi, Stephen Shackelford with Sussman Godfrey. I am so proud to be here today representing Dominion. It's a great day for the company, although a bittersweet day for the company. As I was preparing today to give the opening that I never got to give, I was reminded of the hell that the Dominion employees went through and continue to go through to this day. Money is accountability, and we got that today from Fox. But we're not done yet. We've got some other people who have some accountability coming towards them, and I'm very proud of the team from Sussman Godfrey that has worked tirelessly for this case.
Yeah, we got a bunch of money. We're not done.
Thank you.
We will be going up for more money.
So the media there is asking, like, hey man, did you guys get anything more than the money? And the answer is, I'll read it for you in a second. It's like a mealy-mouthed apology where they you know, they semi, I don't want to say apologize, there's semi-accountability, but then they also go on to suck themselves off and be like, and we are an institution that still believes in fact-finding and truth. So now, the Dominion people may have been referencing One American News and Newsmax as well there, but it might be a little harder to make the case against them because under threat of litigation, at least one of them, I don't remember if it was One American News or Newsmax, actually had to come on air and basically do an apology and say, yeah, none of that stuff is true. And they did it. And so that might actually, you know, get them off the hook. So let me get to the Fox News.
I guess it doesn't... Is there like a setting where it, like,
I guess that's in this article. How much did Fox's election lies cost the largest media settlement in U.S. history? By the way, every article is saying that. I'm not exactly sure because I don't know why they're not counting the Alex Jones settlement, which is more.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe because that's a civil case and this is a criminal case. I'm not exactly sure, but $787.5 million, to put that in perspective, is worth about 10 times what the Dominion company was worth up front. To show you how big that is. And it's like more than half of Fox News's operating budget for a year. So it's certainly not chump change. It really isn't. Now, here is the Fox News statement. This settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standards. We are hopeful that our decision to resolve this dispute with Dominion amicably instead of the acrimony of a divisive trial allows the country to move forward from these issues. So in other words, that's, please, don't hit me. Fox has admitted to telling lies about Dominion that caused enormous damage to my company, our employees, and our customers. That was from the CEO of Dominion. But here's the part that's like the semi-mealy-mouthed apology. We are pleased to have reached a settlement of our dispute with Dominion Voting Systems. we acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about Dominion to be false. Now, again, some people wanted to see this go to trial. I understand that. Some people wanted to see the penalty be more. I understand that too. But let's not miss the plain face reading and interpretation of what happened here, which is what? Fox News was absolutely terrified of a court proceeding, all the truth that would come out, and they thought they would actually lose. So that's why they were like, whatever you want. We're crying uncle. Whatever you want. What do you want? What are you willing to settle for? Let's negotiate. Let's make a deal. Let's figure this out. $787.5 million, and acknowledging that the things that were said about Dominion were false. In no uncertain terms, that's Fox News admitting the narrative of the opposition is correct. In other words, we lied repeatedly, we lied nefariously, we did it on behalf of Donald Trump, we did it because we were audience captured and we were feeding the base whatever they wanted to hear, and we knew it wasn't true, and we didn't care.
Yes!
We didn't care. So, this should make anybody who, you know, watches Fox News or even occasionally watches Fox News and takes some of the stuff they say there and is like, you know, yeah, maybe that's reasonable or whatever, throw it all out. Because now you know, beyond any doubt, truth is not their main concern. They're not doing the news. They're not doing information. They're not being educational. What they're doing is parroting a narrative and running with it. Hey, what are our talking points today? What is it that Trump wants us to say? What does the Republican Party want us to say? What sort of nonsense culture war stuff are we shoving down people's throats? This is how they function. They are absolutely a propaganda arm, and they won't even state the obvious. It was obvious to everybody at the time, everybody who knew anything about the election, that no, of course this election wasn't stolen. Biden won it by 7 million votes. And you think it was stolen? He won it over 300 electoral college votes. And you think it's not even close. Even if you grant the Trump people many of their bogus claims, even if you grant them, that still wouldn't get Donald Trump to over 270 electoral votes. They were just wrong. They were taking conspiracy theories from right-wing blogs, from total psychopaths who think Hillary Clinton has a body double. And they would run with it. They would run with it. So
what's happening?
This is without a doubt, guys, an admission. It's an admission. And in a world that made sense, this would destroy their credibility. Now, by the way, allow me to make this point too. Remember how YouTube, you know, going back a couple years now, they decided, well, let's pump out authoritative news and let's suppress independent news. Now, why do they do that? Because they feel like we don't know what the independent people are going to say. We don't know what the new media people are going to say. They're not an institution. They haven't been around for a long time. But definitely the trustworthy people are the institutional, traditional news outlets. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, all those, like, those are all good. Well, with this case right here, there's an admission. We were lying every step of the way. We were lying and we didn't care. Now we have to pay out $787 million because of that.
But it's nothing.
So is that going to knock
it don't
Fox
matter.
News down in the YouTube algorithm?
No.
To make them less viable? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, by the way, see, that's how it works. It doesn't matter how good of a job an independent media person does. They're never going to get promoted in that algorithm.
Dude, I
and
can't
vice
believe
versa.
I just ate so
doesn't matter how
much
bad of a
shit
job
just now.
CNN or MSNBC does with peddling Russiagate nonsense. Doesn't matter how bad Fox News does with spreading this rigged election nonsense. They're still going to be in that top level category. And that's a shame. That's a shame. And it's wrong. It is just flat out wrong. Like, it should not be the case that they are viewed as legitimate news. Now, so again, some people are saying, I wish it went to trial. Why? Why are they saying that? Well, they probably wanted Fox News to have to pay the full 1.6 or 1.7 billion. Now, here's what I would say. That was never going to happen. That was never going to happen. Why? Because there's this strategy that's used in these sorts of cases. I believe it's called anchoring. I might be butchering that, but I think that's what it's called. And the idea is ask for a sum of money that you know you're never going to get. It's the idea of, like, shoot for the stars and you might reach the moon. Let's ask for something that we know is extreme, and then that'll be like the opening of the negotiation, and then we'll meet somewhere which is way above and beyond what would really make us happy. You know, they probably would have been happy walking away with like $50 million, and they're walking away with $787.5 million. So we're never going to get that money anyway. But people wanted to see,
God, Court would have been
understandably
so
so,
awesome.
all these Fox News hosts have to take the stand.
Yes.
All the producers
Court
have to
would
take
have
the
been
stand.
so
They wanted
fucking
to see
awesome,
what else did they
bro.
have that they found in the discovery process.
God damn,
What
Court
other,
would have been amazing.
you know, internal DMs
that
or text
actually,
messages.
fuck the Johnny Depp
do they
trial,
have?
fuck Gwyneth Paltrow.
I think Fox
that
News
would have
realized
been
this is going to be so
amazing
immensely
trial.
embarrassing to us. This is going to spark, you know, nationwide mockery that we just can't risk it. We got to give them whatever the hell they'll take.
Dude.
Really, whatever they want, we'll give it to them. Because from the leaks we
Dude.
already had, we knew,
I had one
oh
good
man,
race.
Fox is in trouble. Why? Because you have people like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham admitting they know this is bogus. They knew it. You have Tucker Carlson calling Donald Trump a demonic force, saying, I hate him with a burning passion. You have them going after the top
that's pretty
conspiracy
fucking
theorists who are
wild.
whispering in Trump's ear, saying, of course we know this stuff isn't true. And then you juxtapose that with what they were saying on their shows at the same time, and you realize every single one of these people is a liar. Every single one of these people is playing a character.
Yes.
And it would have been beyond devastating. It's already been beyond devastating. But
Okay, come
look,
on. Focus.
again, the fact of the matter is, I don't know how much this is going to make them go down in the ratings. It doesn't look like it's having much of an impact, though, to be honest. And that's kind of embarrassing. Because, again, anybody who even follows the news mildly, right? You read one publication once a week and just skim through it. This should be a devastating blow to Fox News. Because this is, again, forget evidence. It is proof. It is verification.
I fucked it up.
These people are totally and utterly full of shit.
Dude, I can't get these turns right.
Totally and utterly full of shit. So, overall, I get being torn on it, right? Like, I understand people who want it to be more
came
punitive,
back.
make them pay more, expose all their dirty laundry in court, all of it. I get all that. But fundamentally, I think this is still a pretty conclusive decision. You know, 787.5 million.
Today,
you don't do that if you're not guilty.
Right, man?
You don't do it if you're not guilty. And your mealy-mouthed apology is the best you were ever going to get from Fox News, right? We acknowledge the court's rulings, find certain so we have claims about Dominion to be false. So, there you have it. Don't trust a goddamn word coming out of there, man. They're telling you, don't trust a goddamn word coming out of there. This is from their mouths. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want. Alright, so we have...
Wait, what is this on? Oh, YouTube's literally gonna fucking... Damn, I got first, 4192. We'll see. We shall see, baby.
Land of the free and home to an astronomical amount of mass shootings. So I went to the world's largest gun show in Tulsa, Oklahoma to investigate our unique obsession with guns. The bounty was plentiful. Small guns, big guns, Kamala clips, katanas for some reason, and more Nazi swag than Harlan Crow's guest bathroom. 11 acres of guns. Seems weird to use acreage as a measurement of guns, but this is America. Barry, why are you here today?
America.
Oh, there's multiple rainbow roads.
You're here because America ...
Yes, guns.
I feel like that's an American haiku. Little E.E. Cummings over here. What are you looking forward to?
Relaxation. And being able to look at guns free.
That's relaxing to you. It's
Yes.
Sort of like your bonsai tree is looking at an array of guns. Makes you zen.
Makes me feel better.
And this guy might as well have been at a meditation retreat because they were selling guns everywhere, including the parking lot. So you're going to hopefully sell that inside?
Yes.
Do you need a license? Can you just kind of go into the gun show and...
You try to find somebody that wants to buy it, or you find what you want to buy.
And then if somebody's like, I'm interested, I'll buy it, then what do you do?
First of all, you kind of like look them over.
Is that what a background check is here in Tulsa?
I mean, this isn't where people are going to come to maliciously get guns, mostly.
Why not? I guess if I was like, I need to get a gun quick to do bad shit, this is actually exactly where I would come. How much is that going for?
about 900.
What if I came up there and was like, I don't know, I had a little bit of a rough day. My wife just broke up with me. I'm feeling a little on edge. How much for your gun?
Well, I ain't gonna sell it to somebody that looks stupid, you know, or looks like he's like crazy as shit, you know.
What if I say the words of somebody who's crazy as shit, but I look composed like I do right now?
Yeah, I'd probably sell it to you.
Well, the selection of firearms was
no.
diverse. These days, there's only one real star of the gun
Come on,
show.
baby. Come on, baby.
What are you hoping to see?
A couple AR-15s, maybe.
I can't
some
do it. I
tactical
can't do
ones.
it.
I just want to add to it, make it more tactical, make it
cannot.
have some lasers or something.
Why is the AR-15 such a good gun?
It's just cool.
A lot of people use them for day-to-day.
There's a lot of day-to-day AR-15 usage?
I have AR style, but I use that for hog hunting.
Hog hunting?
Hog.
Oh, I'm so close to missing that.
Squirrels, deer, wild hogs.
You're killing wild hogs too?
We have had them threaten us, but...
You've been threatened by pigs?
My dad has.
Why do you think the AR-15 is seen as scary?
Because it looks like a military weapon.
Do you think it's scary because it kills a lot of children?
The weapon itself doesn't kill the children. It's the person wielding the weapon.
Why do they tend to use that weapon in particular?
Because in media, it's portrayed that way.
Well, no, but in schools, it happens that way. Was I misunderstanding this? If AR-15s aren't the real threat in America, what is?
Look
Come on,
up
dude.
bicycle accidents. Look up trampoline accidents.
Coyotes, bears, acid attacks.
Acid attacks. Are there mass acid attacks?
I wouldn't say mass, but they do happen.
Statistically, there are more murders committed in this country every year with hammers, baseball bats, and other blunt force objects than any handgun, rifle, shotgun combined.
Well, that statistic can't be correct.
Automobile accidents, falls, poison.
2x4s, heavy
Third.
a statue sitting on your table.
Right. It seems like we should be looking at all murder weapons from the game of Clue, and then get to the other lower level ones like the AR-15. The more I talk to these people, the more I wondered if all of this tactical shit has always been a part of gun culture.
That's a new thing.
That's new.
Yeah, that's a new thing.
I went to Montana to talk to Ryan Bussey, who spent 25 years in the gun industry, but now advocates for gun safety.
I'm deeply troubled by the firearms culture that's emerged in and around guns in our country now. It mirrors much of our political radicalization and transformation as a country. The industry itself, prior to about 2005 or 2006, would not allow any kind of tactical gear, hardly any AR-15s, no bulletproof vests, no helmets in its own trade shows. It seemed like the industry understood that propagating that kind of thing would lead to very bad shit.
You bring an AR-15 to a gun show in 2009 and you're a weirdo?
Yeah, just 2008 and 2009 is when the weirdo stuff starts wearing off, but yeah, you're a weirdo then. Now it's commonplace, now it's ubiquitous.
But they used to be weirdos.
They used to be weirdos, yeah.
And AR, assault rifle, and the RAW stands for, are you looking at my small penis? Is that right?
It stands for Armalite Rifle, which is the first company that developed it.
Armalite rifle.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I finally got it.
See the AR-15 and tend to think it's a weapon of war, and it feels like I go to a gun show and people say it's for hunting, it's for sport. Who's right?
Well, all you have to do is look at the industry's own marketing. The industry sells it as an offensive weapon of war.
They're starting to market towards kids.
Right? Yeah,
this thing's scary.
Guns have long been marketed to kids. Target guns, trying to get kids involved in the shooting sports and in hunting. But what's different now is that's being marketed to kids through things like the JR-15, the Junior 15, not the AR-15, the Junior 15. It's a shrunken down kids version of an AR-15, yeah.
A JR-15, is that so little kids can stand up to government overreach?
If you're worried about child grooming, here's your child grooming.
This is how gun manufacturers are reaching out to the public.
Here you got the marketing for the JR-15 for little kids. Check that out.
Oh, great, so we have pacifiers and a skull.
Tactical pacifier.
Tactical pacifier. Cute.
Fuck.
2.5-year-old would be drawn to that.
This is a magazine cover. You have the vicious skateboard attacker and the glorious father defending his terribly afflicted family.
Was that one in case Tony Hawk goes crazy?
Yes.
Honey, get the sword, Tony Hawk's here.
So this is Spike's tactical ad. It was a 2018 huge ad at the industry trade show. Guys in jeans, t-shirts, backwards ball cap, AR-15, staring down the protesters. Here you have Kyle Rittenhouse, jeans, backwards ball cap, t-shirt, AR-15.
Jesus.
This is 2 years apart?
2 years apart. The marketing works. I don't know how, if you can't draw a direct line between those two things, I can't help you.
What are steps we can take to limit the number of mass shootings with weapons like the AR-15?
I think, like our politics, a lot of this is about voluntary social
That bomb was perfectly thrown.
Legislation needs to be instituted to help reinforce some of these norms, but some of this is going to be on us.
That's right, it is on us. So it shouldn't be too hard for all of us to come together and agree on what weapons should and should not be owned by the average civilian.
Second!
Should we be able to buy tanks?
You betcha.
Yeah?
You betcha.
If tanks are okay, should we each be able to have an Apache helicopter? There should be a line of the things that are available.
Well, maybe we shouldn't go around with nuclear bombs strapped to our backs.
That's the line.
But
you don't have to but. You don't have to. We had nuclear bombs. We were agreeing. Looks like we've still got some figuring out to do, America.
I had him. Oh, good. That's what I meant to do.
Have one Bernard Sanders decided to go on Jen Psaki's new MSNBC show. And look, this is a weird gathering here, you know, because you got Jen Psaki is
this
sort
map
of
is crazy.
A mouthpiece for the corporate Democratic wing of the party, and Bernie, of course, is no fan of that wing of the party. And they get into an interesting back and forth here. They're discussing Bernie Sanders' book. You know, why it's okay to be angry about capitalism. It's something like that is the title. And this gets a little testy. Let's watch and we'll break it down.
Former President Trump has appealed to working class voters, as have you, over the course of your career quite a bit. And in a recent CNN poll,
Jen, I don't appeal to working class voters. I appeal to voters in general, and all of the issues that we
certainly
talk
do.
about.
You certainly do, Senator. I have a point here. Let me get to it. In a recent CNN poll, 58% of Republicans without a four-year college degree said nominating Trump again would give the party its best chance of winning in 2024. And you have warned about not focusing on issues that are important to a range of workers, range of Americans in the working class. Are Democrats underestimating Trump? Is that something you're concerned about as you're watching?
Of course they're underestimating Trump. But the issue that we should ask ourselves is, how does it happen when you have a pathological liar who is a billionaire who could care less about working class people, ends up with so much working class support? And the reason is that, for too many years, the Democratic leadership has turned its back on working people. So you'll have today a minimum wage which remains at $7.25 an hour. That makes sense? You are the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Talking to you 50 miles away from the Canadian border. They spend one-half as much as we do per capita. They guarantee health care to all people. We pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. We have corporations who are making it harder for workers to join unions. We have a child care system, which is a total disaster. Do you think we're paying attention to the needs of the working class in this country? Billionaires are doing phenomenally well. It's time we stood up with work for working people and fought for a government and a society that work for all of us. And when you do that, I think people will see the fraudulent nature of somebody like Donald Trump.
President Biden said this week he plans to run...
Let me just break that down for you. He's saying, hey man, this is easier than you think it is. Right? Like, hey Democrats, this is easier than you think it is. If you are fighters, and I mean true fighters, for working class people, they will recognize it and you will be rewarded. Now, to be fair, Democrats did do pretty well electorally in the last 3 elections, and in the midterms, they overperformed. It was supposed to be a red wave, and the right underperformed massively. But I would argue that's not necessarily because the Democrats are doing a good job, but it's because the right is absolutely bonkers, insane, crazy. I mean, they ran an election on the 2020 election being rigged, and a trans panic, and, crime hysteria. And it just didn't land. None of it landed. You want to know why? Because people are like, hey man, I need to pay the bills. I need food on my table. I need to be able to pay the water bill and the electric bill. Like, there are more serious issues to talk about, and people felt like the Democrats just had
There's
more
no way I
more
win on this
feel to
track.
them. But Bernie's point, I think he's right about this, is if you actually fight, aggressively for working class people, we saw what happens with FDR. When FDR was president, at one time he had 80% of the House were Democrats and 80% of the Senate were Democrats. That's amazing. We think today, like, that's impossible. You'll never get to a point like that, ever. Because, the pendulum theory of politics, things just swing back and forth. But that's assuming everybody's still brazenly corrupt. If you actually have people who are fighting for working people, no, you can easily have 80% again. I wouldn't say it's easy, but if you actually were to implement this idea, you could get to that point again. FDR won 4 times the White House. Now, of course, we have term limits because the Republicans looked at that and said, oh my God, this is crazy. We'll never be able to beat these guys. We need to, like, have term limits or something. He won 4 times. And his roadmap is the way. Just do things that help working people, and they will reward you. So that's his point. I think he's 100% correct about that.
Re-election, but he is not yet prepared to announce. You have said you're going to support.
Oh, sorry. One more thing. I need to point this out. I can't miss this. It's too important. Another reason Democrats did way better in the last election was Roe versus Wade was overturned. And the right was like, let's do a national abortion ban. And that's super extreme, and the polls show Americans aren't with them. So again, the people who felt more normie to normie Americans was Democrats, and that's why they did better.
President Biden, but are there places...
Fraudulent nature of somebody like Donald Trump.
President Biden said this week he plans to run for re-election, but he is not yet prepared to announce. You have said you're going to support President Biden, but are there places, maybe you touched on some of them just now, where you've been frustrated
I
that
fucking
his
did
administration
okay.
hasn't gone far enough at this point?
Okay.
Look, you tell me that the American
I
people
did all
decide
right. This,
why in some
this
cases we're paying 10
tournament.
times more for prescription
Pussies.
drugs as do the people of other nations.
Pussies.
By the way, Biden has the ability to lower all prescription drug prices on his own.
Bingo.
All of them. In the Inflation Reduction Act, they lowered some, but they only lowered it for seniors, and it kicks in after like a few years. There's so many like, you know, loopholes and just wiggle room there, right? But under the Bayh-Dole Act, Biden has the ability to sign an executive order just saying, I'm going to lower the cost of all prescription drugs. Why? Why is that the ability? Because if taxpayer funding is used to create medicine, the government has the authority and the ability to step in and say, we're going to set the price for this one. And there hasn't been a drug developed over the past 2 decades which hasn't had taxpayer funding for the research and development. So he could do it, he's choosing not to do it. And this is something Bernie's pointing out, and he's right.
It has to do with the power of the pharmaceutical industry, the fact that they have 1,700 paid lobbyists in Washington, D.C. Has the president been strong enough in telling the drug companies, sorry, stop ripping off the American people while you're enjoying record-breaking profits? No, he has not. We need to raise the minimum wage, in my view, to at least $17 an hour so that working people, low-income people, get a fair shake. Have we heard enough about that? No, we have not. We need, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that not only do we protect Social Security from the cuts the Republicans wanted, we have to expand it. Half of the elderly people in this country have nothing in the bank as they face retirement. I haven't heard the president talking about that as much as he should. And bottom line, and this is what the book was about that you mentioned earlier, we are moving toward an oligarchic form of society. And I know that that is not comfortable for people to hear, but it's important that we discuss this issue. We have more income and wealth inequality today than we've ever had. We have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had. We have a corrupt political system which allows billionaires through super PACs to buy elections. Those are some of the issues we need to discuss on corporate media. We need to discuss in the United States Congress.
The title of your book, It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism, really did sit with me. It is a memorable book title, Senator. Of all the things voters are angry about, and there are many, abortion, the lack of progress on gun reform, even Clarence Thomas's questionable relationship with a billionaire. I know how you feel about billionaires. Why should capitalism be at the top of that list? Why was that important to be in the title of that book?
I can't. This is just the quintessential corporate Democrat reaction. It really is. Now, why? Why does she react like this? Because to her, hey, the safe issues for us to focus on are all the social issues. So look, on social issues, I'm sure Jen Psaki and I have almost 100% agreement, right? She wants to do basic gun reform. Great, so do I. She's pro-choice. Great, so am I. She probably wants to legalize weed. Great, so do I. All those things, fine, dandy, wonderful, support all of them. But Jen Psaki also works for the corporate Democrats. She worked for Joe Biden. She's on MSNBC. Where are corporate Democrats not good? Economic issues. Why? Because they take their funding from these big corporations. These big corporations don't really want a higher minimum wage. They don't really want unionization. They don't really want higher taxes on the wealthy. They don't really want to end the money in politics, end the corruption. And so on those issues, she sort of tries to split the difference between the Republicans and what should actually be the Democratic position. And on these issues, she's a Democrat name only, And it's like, we can do mild reforms and tweaks around the edges, but I wouldn't do anything extreme like Medicare for all or anything like that, because that's impacting concentrated capital too much. So that's why she hones in on her core disagreement. Huh, why did you pick it's okay to be angry about capitalism as opposed to it's okay to be angry about abortion? Oh, it's so obnoxious.
Abortion, the lack of progress on gun reform,
Fuck.
even Clarence Thomas' questionable relationship with a billionaire. I know how you feel about billionaires.
Oh my god, oh my
Why
god.
should capitalism be at the top of that list? Why was that important to be in the title of that book?
This guy's good, man.
By the way, just final point, it also impacts us more than every other issue, right? We all live under capitalism. We all do. And it really is the unifying thing. Class politics are the unifying thing. But yeah, why focus on that?
And what's important, abortion is a huge issue. Social justice is a huge issue. But, you know, sometimes the corporate media forgets about it and Congress forgets about it. You and I are chatting today. You know that there are tens and tens of millions of Americans who cannot afford health care, who are scared to death that if their kid or their parent gets sick, they don't know what's going to happen. There are people working for starvation wages. There are moms who can't afford to send their kids to decent childcare, can't even find a slot. Those are issues of enormous consequence we don't talk about. Now you tell me, you got 3 people on top today who have more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Is that an issue we should be talking about? Does that sound like we have an economy that works for all of us, or just a few? Is that an issue worth discussing?
Senator, so I'm happy to have you on. I wanted to ask you about I did want to ask you, sir, about President Biden's nomination of Julie Su for...
Oh, she's like, get off it. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Look, his point is, I'm talking about the things that you guys refuse to talk about in corporate media. Why? Because look at who you're funded by.
Fucking.
You may be socially progressive, socially liberal, socially on the left. You know, corporate Democrats, corporate media, you might, and that's all fine and dandy, but you're economically conservative. And that's what he's fighting back against. He's like, look, I'm talking about these issues you guys refuse to talk about in corporate media. Right? I mean, you watch some of the Sunday shows and there will be like commercials for military industrial complex contractors. And it's like, why are they paying, you know, to have their thing on ABC or on like Meet the Press or whatever? They're doing it because they're buying influence. So on these issues, corporate media is out to lunch. They don't talk about it. And Bernie is talking about these issues because they're not. And also, this is the stuff that unites all Americans.
Damn, dude.
Right? All working class Americans can look around and go, yeah, you know, cost of living is too high. Yeah, my wages are too low. Yeah, I need more vacation time. Right? Yeah, I'm gonna go bankrupt for medical bills. And so that's why he's talking about it. And she's like, why would you do that?
Labor Department Secretary.
And I love Julie. We're going to do our best together. But let's talk about income and wealth inequality. Let's talk.
He's not letting it go. He's like, look, these are the things you guys never talk about. I want to talk about them. You never talk about them. You don't talk about income and wealth inequality. You don't talk about corruption. And these are the most unifying things among the working class. This is the most important thing. Now, again, they'll talk about social issues till the cows come home. Why? Because that doesn't impact the bottom line of the corporations that fund them. And again, just to be clear, I agree with these people on social issues. And that's wonderful, right? They're better than Republicans on that alone. But that doesn't mean that they're where they should be on economics or that they're fighters for these things. They're not. And Bernie is now just out there calling a spade a spade. By the way, I don't even think 10 years ago he would have released a book that says it's okay to be angry about capitalism. But now it's becoming more socially acceptable to openly question capitalism. Why? Because it very clearly is imploding. It's very clearly collapsing in on itself, and further evidence of that is we just covered a story, one of the oldest investment banks in the world. They're coming out and saying, yeah, capitalism is sort of destroying itself. They're saying it. The capitalists are saying it. And they blame what's called greedflation. They see, oh my God, there was this hysteria around inflation, and then corporations use that as an excuse to jack up prices across the board. We've covered articles from Business Insider on this. It was like Target, and there were bunch of other stores that were like, let's just raise the prices for everything. Why? So we can get away with it. Well, guess what? When you have record income and wealth inequality, when you have real wages not keeping up with inflation, and then you're charging more for your everyday goods, at some point, the system's going to collapse. There's going to be bodies in the street.
concentration of ownership. Let's talk about corporate ownership of the media. Do you think that those are issues worth discussing?
Well, Senator, I have you on today. We're having a conversation about all of these issues. I did want to ask you about this because you are chairman of this committee.
Look at Bernie's face. He's like, yeah, when I'm on is the only time you guys will talk about any of this. It's the only time. And you know what? He's right. And they're clearly uncomfortable. She's uncomfortable talking about it.
It is important to have a labor secretary in place, right? There is reporting that suggests the holdouts are Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema. First of all, is that true? And second, what are you saying to them to get them on board? What's the case you're making for her?
Well, look, we have Manchin and Sinema who torpedoed Build Back America. You are slightly
Build Back Better, but yes.
Familiar with that issue, I think? You know, having worked for President Biden, it was a monumental piece of legislation which I thought was transformative. And you have two corporate Democrats who refuse to support that very important Biden initiative that we all work very, very hard on. Once again, I think what you have as an issue is which side are you on? And for Manchin or Sinema and anybody else, they're going to have to decide. Julie Sue is now being attacked. Big ads all over the country because she stands up for working people. She believes in apprenticeship programs. She believes in raising the minimum wage. She's opposed vigorously to the exploitation of children. She is a very strong candidate, somebody I want to see become our Secretary of Labor. Corporate interests don't want her. And we will see how members of the Democratic caucus vote on that.
All right, so you get the gist of it. He's right about this, too. Manchin and Sinema really have led the effort in blocking legislation, which really would have been transformative. I mean, for all my issues with Build Back Better, Build Back Better would have been the biggest transformation of our economy since the New Deal. There's no doubt about that. And even the IRA was nothing compared to Build Back Better, but it was way better than nothing. But really, who do you blame that on? Honestly, you blame it first and foremost on Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. They were the problem. They were the problem. And as much as critical as I am of Joe Biden, and I am, because he also doesn't fight for this stuff, he was actually for Build Back Better, right? He didn't know how to twist arms. He didn't know how to play the politics in order to get these people to fall in line. But at least he was in favor of Build Back Better. Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, they're not, right? Ultimately, Manchin was for the IRA, but it's like we're always beholden to the whims of the most conservative corporate Democrats, and that's the problem. So anyway, Bernie doing a great job busting up Jen Psaki here. You can see it was kind of tense, but fundamentally the issue is what? Corporate Democrats will never be as serious as Bernie is about corporate power and the flaws of capitalism, because they are funded by the people who benefit from this system. They're not as bad as the Republicans. They're in favor of more reform than the Republicans are, but that's damning with faint praise. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
Puto. Fuck. Fuck. I'm a hijo de puta. Yes! Be gone, you demon. You got tired of me, bro. You got tired of me. Okay. Just in debate time.
Either not just penetrating.
Wait, hold on. What part of that is funny to you?
Which can include either unwanted sexual contact of the rectum, vagina, mouth, penis.
When you say unwanted sexual contact, so if I touch somebody's mouth, have I raped them?
Some people would argue that touching anybody...
I'm not asking for some people arguing. I'm asking for your argument. What do you define as...
Well, I don't think definitions are subjective. Do you?
It seems like they are, because you're not giving me a coherent definition of rape, and the one you've given me so far probably disagrees with the legal one. But there are different legal and social and country definitions.
Dude, what
so
is
I'm just trying to
going
figure out
on
what
in my mouth
definition
right now?
you're using so I can answer you as accurately as possible.
Well, I would say right now we're not just talking about blanket sexual assault. We're talking about rape. So we're talking about like what?
I don't know what you mean when you say rape. Go.
Unwanted sexual intercourse.
So if I fuck somebody's mouth, does that count as rape?
Yes, because like I said, I was defining intercourse as anything involving the orifices I mentioned.
Anything involving? So if I shove my fingers in somebody's mouth, have I raped them?
Do you not want to debate this?
It is very important when we start this conversation to start from a coherent definition of rape. You're asking me what is the leading cause of rape. If you have an inability to define what rape is, I don't know if I can meaningfully answer your question.
That's actually a good response, because I feel like a lot of the criticism of the last one, people didn't understand what you were describing as rape. Like you were talking more about like just sexual coercion. You were talking about sexual coercion, not sexual assault, I think, right?
Well, it feels like the definition that you're kind of giving now, where it's like unwanted sexual contact of like the rectum, vagina, anus, or whatever. In which case, that's kind of the definition I was using before. But then when I say like, oh, I think rape happens because men are too aggressive and women are too passive, and you're like, well, I think that rape is when you rape someone in an alleyway. You think that's a woman being passive? Well, it doesn't really work. I don't know why you're giving me a dictionary definition. I don't care what the dictionary defines it as, because I'm not arguing with the dictionary. I'm arguing with you. So you have to tell me what your definition of rape is. If you want to pick a definition, then...
Oh, does something not work? Dude. Oh, he muted it. Okay. Come on. Wait. Oh, what the fuck? Oh. Because I plugged in the stupid fuck.
So far, probably disagrees with the legal one. It's probably going to take you a couple sentences to get there. Like, what does it mean when we say rape? What does that mean? Because unwanted sexual... What do you mean by unwanted, and what do you mean by intercourse? Because fucking somebody's mouth is not technically intercourse, because I think that usually involves a vagina, but you'd probably consider that to be rape, right?
Yeah, that's why I specified and detailed the mouth, the asshole. I think women can rape men.
Okay. What about coercive stuff? Is that get a girl really drunk, get her in my room. She's not like blackout drunk, but she's a little compromised, and then we have sex. Is that rape?
It depends what definition you're using. That's why
I'm asking you for your definition.
I don't think I have a personal definition.
Then I can't meaningfully answer the question of what is the cause of rape if I don't know what you're asking. What is... I don't know.
Yes, you can, because if I ask you what's the leading cause of rape, you can start by positing your definition and then respond from there. You don't have to respond to something that already
So you
exists.
want me to give you my definition of rape and then go from there? You want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, obviously, if I ask you a question, I'm asking you to answer it, to deduce it from your perception of
There's no
reality,
way it's
your
gonna
own
ask me that.
definition.
Okay.
That's not obvious at all. Usually when people are asking questions, they're usually asking from their frame of reference. It's very unusual that you would ask from another
it's an
person.
invitation for you to detail your own frame of reference. That's why it's a question.
You're asking a question.
Yes.
So it's probably coming from your frame of reference.
There's no way I can't watch this. I'm not watching it. I can't do it. Bro, I can't do it. I cannot do it, bro. No puedo. It's FIFA time, dude.
I could use a fantasy, and I wonder why she sleeps with my friends. Hi everyone, I'm Anthony Bactano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're happy. I hope you're fine. I hope you're healthy. Well, I know some people who aren't happy.
Why is this taking
that would be many a Coachella goer. The legendary California Music Festival happened this past weekend. Many who were there, and also those who were not there, were enjoying the festivities, as many of them, music-wise, were broadcast over live stream. Lots of cool clips and performances were shown over the weekend, but there was one, obviously one in particular, that many people across the internet, across the world, were looking forward to seeing. That would be the Frank Ocean headlining performance on Sunday last night. Many were very much looking forward to this performance because, from what I understand, it's been about 6 years since Frank has hit the stage, and it's been even longer since the release of a new album. The fans want to know when a new album's coming out. The fans want to know when a new album's coming out. The fans want to know when a new album's coming out. The fans want to know where to know. I'm like my cousin on stage that weekend, Mr. Mark Rebier. We are not the same person. Stop showing me this man. I know that we both have dashing good looks. I don't need to be reminded. Anyway, a lot of listeners, including myself, presumed that the reason this performance was happening is that we may in fact be getting a Frank Ocean album this year. Why would he be coming out to do such a big performance on such a big stage, at such a big festival, if he did not have something to promote? However, in the midst of this set, Frank Ocean did give us some insight as to why he was performing this weekend and shed some light on some very touching and nostalgic memories that he had around his late brother going to Coachella with him and enjoying the performances with him, which is obviously very personal and touching for Frank to share. However, I only saw this or heard about this through clips and phone recordings of the show, and why that is, here's the kicker. So yeah, this live stream performance that everybody was anticipating from Coachella this weekend from Frank, that got canceled. However, again, there seemed to be many a phone, including one brave woman who was shooting the whole thing in 4K. Just shout out to her and everybody else who captured this thing in whatever way they could. But yeah, obviously Frank Ocean taking his performance off the stream for many was pretty disappointing. But what seems to have been even more disappointing was the actual performance itself for the people who were there. Because some of the clips and some of the accounts of the performance from the fans, from the concert goers, have not really been all that flattering. Not exactly the level of performance you come to expect from one of the biggest names and most successful names in the mainstream, one of the most beloved artists of this era, frankly. There's also been some interesting footage that some fans, I guess, are taking issue with of him performing the song White Ferrari with some analog synth sequences and a backing beat that feels like something out of an LCD sound system song. Not that that's a bad thing, and as far as the problems people had with the set, I feel like that one ranks pretty low, like coming through the creative reinterpretation of one of your own songs. I feel like that's kind of the potential appeal of seeing a live set anyway. There are some clips of Frank Ocean actually singing and performing his tracks too, but which ones got performed all the way through,
What's
which ones
going
actually
on,
got performed to whatever degree seem kind of choppy and inconsistent, at least from what I'm able to gather. Because while platforms like Complex have released what seemingly a full set list from the performance, from what I understand, Frank didn't actually end up singing a lot of these songs, and many of them just ended up being kind of DJ'd, which also there's rumored to have been like a bit of I guess like a rave interlude in the midst of the whole set as well. There's a really amazing little bit of a security guard throwing ass to what seems like that passage of the whole thing. One fan's account of the performance on TikTok is actually pretty scathing, saying that he was 1.5 hours late for the whole thing. Lots of gaps of silence, constantly bringing people on, but they're not even really participating in the music itself. The stage setup didn't really present all that much to the audience visually, and it looks like a lot of people who were actually there for this ended up being pretty disappointed in what they actually were given in terms of a performance. So with taking all this in and getting an idea of what happened, I guess I'll say two things. One, what did you expect? Honestly, Frank Ocean is historically one of the weirder, dodgier, more elusive artists in the music industry, like really of all time. If Frank Ocean got on that stage that night and just like directly gave fans banger after banger after banger, no interruption, all the stops are getting pulled out, it's fireworks, it's just total pandemonium, that truly would have been the surprise of that evening. But he's Frank Ocean. He's not freaking Neil Diamond. He's not getting on stage to just sort of like hammer out the hits. He's not getting on there to go, Sweet Caroline, ba, ba, ba. Frank Ocean being kind of standoffish and not presenting himself in a very kind of clear or concrete way, that's just really kind of a very Frank Ocean thing to do, including I think, having this live stream not go down, because again, that would make it easier for people to kind of like make sense of or interpret or see some kind of like clarity of his actions or performance or whatever. And Frank is always doing whatever he can to sort of just hang in the shadows, which in a way I do have to admire, because we live in very overexposed and saturated times. It seems like your average artist out there is doing everything and anything they can to kind of just like stay at the forefront of people's minds and just like grab their attention, engage. And Frank just can't fucking be bothered. He doesn't give a shit. And again, this is not new behavior. This is how he has been for a long time. And the idea that was going to change with this Coachella performance, I think is a naive one. But here's part two. Here's the other thing that I wanted to say. Because Frank Ocean has put on good performances in the past. While I do admire and I do like his approach when it comes to dealing with labels and promoters and the media in mainstream entertainment, I like his kind of just ability to keep everything at arm's length. However, I feel like that behavior shouldn't go so far to the point where you are robbing the fans of a very well-deserved experience, honestly. Making people wait 6 years to see like a big headline spot that you kind of rob from them, not only via taking away the live stream, but also by way of just kind of being lazy and being unengaged, just aimlessly wandering through your own songs or having them DJ'd by somebody else, whatever the hell it is, just like farting your way through a performance. That just kind of seems like dickish behavior. So again, while in one breath I do see this as a very Frank Ocean kind of thing to do, he is also kind of flipping the bird a little bit to the people who have made him such a sensation that he's on that stage in the first place. I mean, I'll say this, Frank Ocean has made some great records over the years, ones that I've loved, but nobody's time or fame in the music industry is guaranteed. And I would hate to see Frank's future potential squashed by, I guess, just a lack of interest or passion or drive, because I do think his talent and his position right now affords him a lot of potential in terms of being able to change things or make another groundbreaking record, really kind of terraform the musical landscape a little bit current day. Maybe there's something else to add here in terms of like the current day standards of performances and live shows, because truth be told, some of the stuff Frank was doing on that stage didn't look too different from some random afternoon set from an awful artist at Rolling Loud, where you're just there kind of like vibing to your own music just being blasted out into the crowd. Some comparison could be drawn there, but it's pretty clear in this instance, like the audience that was there and is kind of catching the aftermath of all of this is not really having what Frank offered that evening, and just generally thought it was kind of disappointing and reflective of a pretty strong lack of effort and care and interest on his part. There's also been some recent reporting saying that Frank Ocean may have sustained an ankle injury before the performance, but if it was serious, that should have only really affected his movement around the stage, not whether or not he could perform the songs. Cue picture of Dave Grohl in a cast. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments on this Frank Ocean Coachella set. You're the best. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Frank Ocean, forever.
Dude. Ah, wasted. Wasted. What do I put on now? Alright.
If you go and purchase an album and the album has no music in it, you'd be like, what is this? You told me that there was an album in here, and I open up the disc and there's no CD or there's no music in the CD. And that is basically the same thing here. This is a bit of a scam. Here, this is Festive Owl. I've been speaking with sources about what exactly transpired and how things went so far downhill for Sunday on Frank Ocean for Coachella. The stage production was supposed to and did contain an ice rink that was constructed and ready to go. Okay. He was an hour and a half late, and they were all waiting in the fucking cold, apparently, and in the silence because there's nothing else to watch. He's an hour late to the set. The reason why he's an hour late to the set, by the way, is because of this. Frank decided at the last minute that he no longer wanted it at all, the ice rink. All of the people walking around him at the start of the performance were actually ice skaters, had been practicing for weeks, and were supposed to be skating as a part of the production. Coachella had to deconstruct the approved stage that had been planned and signed off on for months in advance.
Frank honestly doesn't sound like
and then set it up how Frank decided with no warning. This all happened when doors had already opened for Sunday, and people were securing their spots to see him. If the last minute changes weren't made, he wouldn't have performed at all, leaving the festival without a closing headliner. Frank also personally pulled the plug at the last second on the live stream, which left a very sour taste in many inside Coachella's mouths. Ultimately, and I quote, "It just didn't seem like he wanted to be there but was obligated to be. Everything, including him, fell apart last minute. Don't expect to see any coverage from the festival about the set, something that is unprecedented in the history of Coachella. The relationship is not in a good place right now." I worked on that ice rink. We all thought it was super dumb, but awesome at the same time. We lugged those heavy fake rocks, set up lights and around and beneath it. It was going to be so dope. The stagehand and production crew morale really dropped when we found out it wasn't being used. Hundreds of man hours, blood, sweat, and tears for nothing. In part, that's just how it goes. But in reality, everyone was super upset. We did hours and hours of work only to scrap it hours before. So, you know, Sean C had a take on it. Let's take a look. Sean C is very level-headed. I'm a fan of his. Let's see what he has to say about it. But this is like the major Coachella drama. Other than that, I saw all my friends, you know, having a wonderful time at Coachella. But this year, it does feel a little bit less. Maybe because I didn't go, so I wasn't in it. So it's different for me. But like experiencing it from the outside, maybe because it was a creator clash that was happening simultaneously for me, I didn't really see too much Coachella. Like, I did not see a lot of movement, momentum. I didn't see a lot of media around it. But yeah, let's take a look.
You know you're wrong. You know you're wrong. This is insane. This is crazy. I swear to God, it took me 6, 7, almost 8 times of scrolling past this video for me to realize it was Frank Ocean. I thought this was a video of some random dude that has nothing to do with some performer's set hopping on stage and just going crazy to one of the songs. I thought it was a random. If you would have told me this was Frank Ocean performing one of his songs at Coachella, something that people have been waiting so long for, have flown from God knows wherever to come see, I would not have believed you if I didn't hear the sound. Obviously, we all love Frank Ocean. He's a GOAT, in my opinion. Very influential. Almost started a whole new wave of R&B. His blueprint, his sound, his aesthetic is being used even with him being absent from the musical scene or space.
All this part
for
is true, yes.
over 6-7 years. Regardless of all these accomplishments and how much people adore Frank Ocean,
he's got 4 good songs. It's crazy. Listen, bro. No, I don't know why everybody does this where it's like, oh, I've been known. Like, I knew he sucked. Anytime like somebody fucking has like a shit moment, like everybody fucking piles on, and then they just like take it one step further, and they're like, he only has 4 good songs. Like, shut the fuck up. No, his entire discography is awesome. Okay, shut up. You can be honest about that.
I don't buy
while
his song saying that at all.
being
His
like,
song
it's
doesn't even
ridiculous.
listen to
This
music,
is ridiculous.
dude.
No, he's not fucking overrated, dude. That's
His song
insane.
saying that is
okay,
a bunch
that's
of
insane.
bullshit.
that should not make him feel entitled to wasting people's time in the way I feel he did with this performance. Now, from what I've heard, I don't think Frank has lost any of his vocal capabilities, any of his technical talents. I don't think any of that has been lost, even though he hasn't released anything new for people to verify since 2016. Frank is kind of like the musical equivalent of playing hard to get, but with his fans. And ironically enough, kind of needs them to support the career. It's a strange relationship because he is one of the few acts I feel like fans have to actually genuinely put effort into trying to experience in a live setting, like person to person. He's extremely elusive, just digitally speaking. It feels almost impossible to reach him in person. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping that illusion and maintaining that distance, privacy, and curtain.
Man, gatekeeps himself from his fans. Dude, what do you mean? Oh, God. The expectation that people have from a fucking artist is insane. I think everybody's so used to people like myself, people that are like in the online sphere, giving people everything, giving fans everything in their entire lives, that people have this like incredibly high bar for content creators where they're like, yeah, it's not just like, I can't just like listen to his music. I need to know everything that's going on in his fucking life. It's crazy. It's even crazy for someone like myself, but it's especially crazy for someone like him, whose main content isn't his like personality or whatever. No, he don't like his fans. That's accurate. Yeah, the reason why people say he doesn't like his fans is because, I mean, he
like anybody.
It's the lack of releases. I think that's where that comes from for the most part. At least when Nicki Minaj has long bouts of not making music, she's still constantly and consistently interacting with her fan base, and she's also doing features and whatnot. So I think that's the main difference between someone like Nicki Minaj and someone like Frank Ocean, and how they are received. Whereas Frank Ocean is like cryptic. He's very much distant from his fan base. I think that's the reason why they're doing that. Playboy Cardi would never do that to his fans, and also people booed Drake at Tyler's concert, and this shows why people were wrong about this dude. He probably canceled that too. Wait, what? The reality is absolutely nobody can know what's going on behind the scenes except him and his label. I bet his contract might be a little better than others, but he's not 100% independent in the music industry. I mean, no, I
maybe a veil, if you'll say, between you and your audience, but you can't promise live performances and be that same person as well. People aren't going to a live show to basically watch you reenact a studio session. These are fans, yes, but you are still performing for them.
The other thing is, though, this crazy is because he can get away with it, because if he were to announce a tour, that tour would sell out instantly, even though he just did this and just shit on people. If he announced a tour, that tour would sell out immediately
for them. And if there are Frank Ocean fans who see this and you are,
I'm literally just, here's the thing, I'm separating the fandom's expectation out of Frank Ocean versus the performance at Coachella. because the performance at Coachella is something that you should and absolutely are valid to criticize, okay? That's unacceptable. It's like, especially after such a long stint of like not giving anything, like not having anything else going on. He might have something in his like real life, he might have something going on in his personal life or anything like that, but Frank owes you nothing but a Coachella performance in exchange for the $600 ticket you pay for. Exactly, that's my point. If you're a fucking Frank Ocean fan and you go to Coachella to see Frank Ocean, and then Frank Ocean doesn't actually, and Frank Ocean doesn't give you 100%, that's crazy. No, you bought a service and he didn't give it to you. I think that's kind of fucked up. Ice skaters killed his family? What? Jesus Christ.
Are completely on his side and stand for him no matter what he does, and you in some frame of your mind take it as an offensive thing to be called a performer when that's what you're there to do, then you shouldn't be doing it. I know there are plenty that will retort with, there's tragedy amongst his family, he's got personal problems going on, and
yeah,
that's
his brother
completely
died,
understandable. I can only imagine what he went through having lost who he lost and whatever other personal problems he could be going through, but that isn't your job to think about. You drop bread, you need service. That's how business operates, or how it should. This isn't a restaurant where if you don't like what you've been served, you might get a chance at another item on the menu or possibly your money back. You are wasting hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to attend Coachella. You should not defend a subpar performance. Now, this is a tweet from the Festive Owl that says, I've been speaking to sources about exactly what transpired and how things went so far downhill Sunday for Frank Ocean and Coachella. So here you go. The stage production was supposed to and did contain an ice rink that was constructed and ready to go. Frank decided at the last minute that he no longer wanted it at all. All of the people walking around him at the start of the performance were actual ice skaters, had been practicing for weeks, and were supposed to be skating as part of the production. Coachella had to deconstruct the approved stage that had been planned in...
You know what else? It would not surprise me to find out that he did that on purpose. Like he purposely was like... They were like, dude, you have to perform at Coachella. And he was like, fuck, man, all right. I'm gonna need a giant ice skating rink and a bunch of fucking ice skaters. And he made it happen, knowing he was like gonna be like, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. But just to fucking bug everybody. That honestly wouldn't surprise me. Because he finessed his record label like that.
Signed off on for months in advance, melt the entire ice rink, and then set it up how Frank decided today with no warning, which is what you ended up seeing and caused the hour-long delay. This all happened when doors had already opened for Sunday and people were securing their spots to see him. If the last-minute changes weren't made, he wouldn't have performed at all, leaving the festival without a closing headliner. Frank also personally pulled the plug at the last second on the live stream, which left a very sour taste in many inside Coachella's mouths. That sounds awful. Why'd you tweet it like that? I don't. Ultimately, and I quote, "It just didn't seem like he wanted to be there, but he was obligated. Everything, including him, fell apart last minute. Don't expect to see any coverage from the festival about the set, something that is unprecedented in the history of Coachella. The relationship is not in a good place right now." And when I read something like that, all I can think about is the inconsideration and the lack of care to the people who act as accents to the main star himself. The ornaments to the Christmas tree, the icing on the cake. The people who aid in making the experience what it is, but remain nameless for the sake of the star, for the sake of highlighting and maintaining attention on the main performer. Again, I'm no stranger to feeling completely different to something that I had been planning for a long time at the last minute and just not wanting to do it or foregoing the whole thing altogether. But I'm also not wasting anyone's time, threatening anyone's enjoyability for the night.
I think he owns his fans a little more than one album in 9 years. I mean, even that, I like, what do you mean? Like, no, nobody owes you anything. Just don't be a fan then. You know what I mean? Like, that's so dumb. The entitlement from like fandom is crazy to me sometimes. And I say this as someone who gives everything to his fan base, okay? Literally everything. and motherfuckers still demand more from me. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. I don't understand where this comes from. Like, I don't know why people are, I don't know. I find it frustrating when people say stuff like that. I find it frustrating when I hear people be like, he owes more to his fandom. Like, he owes more to his fan base. It's like, well, don't be a fan then. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what do you mean? Then don't be a fan. If you feel like he doesn't care about you because he hasn't made an album, like, why the fuck are you still, where's this sense of entitlement coming from? Like, why do you have it? You know? However, selling a service and not performing and not giving you that service that you fucking paid a gorillion dollars to, when you, like, put together as much money as you possibly could. You're a fucking regular old working class person. Not every single person that goes to Coachella is a fucking influencer, okay? There's a lot of real, normal people that go there.
Only worth it if you go as an influencer. It's the only time it's
enjoy the music, and they want to see Frank Ocean for the first time in years. And then they, like, literally take time off from work, put their hard-earned dollars together to, like, listen to fucking Frank Ocean live. And then he doesn't give them that. That's fucked up. They fly out. They spend an insane amount of money on, like, overpriced Airbnbs or hotel rooms and shit like that. And then, boom, you can't even get the one thing that you wanted to see. It's fucked up. You don't understand. Music stands don't see their favorites as human. For the record, for people saying he performed a full set, from what I understand, he was just, like, lip-syncing for half the time, right? I'm a Frank Dick writer, and I wouldn't blame him or feel slighted if he decided to make stop music altogether. Artists don't owe us anything, and their relationship with their art doesn't have a factor in our consent or approval.
By stalling my set and running into their curfew time, people aren't using some of the money from their work checks to fly across the country to see me. Here is someone who says they worked on the ice rink. We all thought it was super dumb but awesome at the exact same time. We lugged those heavy fake rocks, set up lights around and beneath it. It was going to be so dope. The stagehand and production crew morale really dropped when we found out it wasn't being used. Hundreds of man hours, blood, sweat, and tears for nothing. In part, that's just how it goes. But in reality, everyone was super upset. We did hours and hours of work only to scrap it hours before. And all I can say is, at least you got paid. But who wants to work in a business where you don't enjoy what you do for a paycheck? If you did, you'd be Frank Ocean, because it doesn't seem like he's enjoying what he's doing. Seems like he's going through the motions just for the payment. And that's fine, to be in that space where you just don't enjoy creating, or you don't feel like doing what you're obligated to do. But at least give a shit enough about what it is that you do, even if you're not currently enjoying what it is that you do, so that other people who still enjoy what they do to help you do what you do don't feel discouraged and bummed out like this every time you decide last minute to change your mind. I also saw plenty of people saying that Frank Ocean finessed Coachella, like this was the biggest finesse of all time. You're not finessing the company that you're agreeing to do a service for. You're finessing your own fans, the people who are going to be there when the deal with whatever company you're working with ends. Like I said, it's okay to be elusive digitally, but when you have people actually...
What did you, Frank Ocean, just Drake dancing? This is what they're talking about. Like, that's crazy. He's just vibing. His ass is not performing. Yeah, dude. Eating a big-ass burrito and coffee, knowing you have to use 100% of porta potties, not making me feel I don't get Coachella logic. This dude paid all the money and got
Everyone
this.
is mad at Frank Ocean. We're leaving Coachella right now, and this is why. Alright, I'm going to start off by saying Frank was over an hour late, and people got there as early as 8 a.m. today. Secondly, he only performed for about 30 minutes max. Only did 3 of his popular songs. And the biggest thing is he never came out. He was behind the screen the whole entire time. By half the show, it was half empty already. People were leaving the entire time. I'm not saying like it was bad. I mean, that's up to you guys, but people feel very scammed today.
Why? He can't even say it's bad, dude. It's so funny. Like, the people... Dude, Frank Ocean fans are crazy with it. They're like, nah, I can't even say it's bad. I'm like, you can say it's bad, dude. Like, I don't dislike Frank Ocean, but it's still a fun picture. No, I don't even agree with that. But, one, he was 1.5 hours late, so we were all standing in the cold and waiting. 2, he would have really long, weird, silent pauses throughout his set, like 2 minutes of pure silence. 3, he kept bringing on people, but not even participating in the song, just letting them sing or DJ. There was also a 6-minute rave in the middle of his concert. His whole stage setup was made so the audience couldn't see him. No matter how close we were, we couldn't see the stage, so everyone had to watch the screen the whole time. 5, the screen itself would rarely even show him too. You'll see in the videos I will post later, it was like a weird film. Conclusion, people traveled for such a far distance to see him, and people had high expectations because he hasn't played in 6 years, and we all really got disappointed. The whole production was just lacking, and it was just really not bringing much to the whole performance. This part does make sense, for the record. I mean, this is a whole ass essay on TikTok, bro. Zoomers, when their favorite artist, doesn't give them exactly what they want, will fucking write the Das Kapital of TikTok essays, dude. Holy shit. A lot of people left early. Oh, here. This is
He should not have stepped on that stage at Coachella, and I'm gonna tell you why. First and foremost, before I blame anybody else, I'm blaming Coachella. Y'all had this man slated to headline the show since 2020. Obviously, 2020, it could not happen. 1, because of COVID. 2, his brother passed away that year. I don't know what kind of timeline y'all put on grief, but this man clearly was not ready to perform. Whether it was him hiding behind scaffolding, singing some song, changing the arrangements of classics like White Ferrari and Chanel, and in general, Frank Ocean just really isn't a performer like that. And that's no shade to him at all. Not a Frank. Baby.
Yeah, it's definitely Coachella's fault that, he took a $4 million payment. Coachella is at fault for paying him $4 million. What are they supposed to do? Put him at fucking gunpoint? Like, fuck Coachella, but like, goddamn. That's like...
If you knew you wasn't ready, which I understand if you weren't, you should have asked them to delay your set. You should not have performed this year, and we all know why. And maybe you did try to get them to agree to a different year for you.
Bro, you wish you had stands like this one in the trenches defending Frank? Yes, dude. That's what I need.
You to perform, and they just said no. But regardless, you did have a contract to honor. And so at the least, even if you didn't want to be there, you should have showed up on time. Especially knowing that Coachella has a strict curfew. To me, coming an hour late to a performance is unacceptable, especially when a curfew is in place. Now, I'm not going to be mad at you like some people for not releasing new music, because if y'all have not caught on, Frank Ocean releases music when Frank Ocean fucking feels like releasing music. So if you got disappointed by no new music, that's on you. But sweetie, people paid thousands of dollars to come and see you perform. Your first performance in over 6 years. And you telling me you couldn't hit the stage on time? That's just, come on, dog. That's
damn. Okay. Dude, you're saying dick riding is crazy? But, like, even the dick rider is popping off a little bit. But, like, that's how you know. I mean, that's how you know the fandom is turning a little bit.
Acceptable. Not only that, but babes, you had kids out there camping since noon at the front of the gate just to see you. They gave up their last day of Coachella to wait for you. And lastly, the fans, listen up. What did y'all expect from him? Truthfully, even if you saw a stream of his last time performing live 6 years ago, you would know this man just doesn't perform like that. That's not his bag. His bag is making really
never
good
mind.
music.
Nope, that was just like 1 second. Now bro, this is insane. This is literally like, wait, okay. There was like one brief moment when he's like, I would go so far as say 98% at fault. Only a little bit of mild criticism for Frank Ocean. And then even the fans are getting fucking criticized. What the fuck? The parasocial relationship between fans and Frank is so funny because he's given them like nothing all for years. And they're all like, oh, it's not his fault. I hope he's okay. It's because music is incredibly powerful as a medium. It's so personal. That's why I think like music fandoms are way crazier than everything else. Music is an incredibly powerful medium to convey emotion. And if you feel like this artist gets you, so holy fuck, you're just gonna, you fall in love with them. And it's to an unhealthy degree. And it spans across the world too. It's like a global thing. That's why you have so many Americans that are standing K-pop stars, not just Koreans. That's why you have so many people across the world that love Frank Ocean this much. Cutie is a whole ass, grown ass adult, dude. Think about that. And she's a fucking stan. She's a stan. She's a Taylor Swift stan. She's a content creator herself and yet still a stan. Like, think about that. That's how powerful it is. Is that why you don't listen to music? You're so different you can't relate to any artist? Joker moment? No, I've listened to a lot of fucking music when I was growing up, and I actually thought that there was something really wrong with my brain personally because I couldn't ever feel the same way that like so many of my peers felt when they were younger about artists, about their performances. I literally thought that I had like, you know, something wrong with my brain. I thought I was at fault. Now I just don't really give a shit. Like now I don't really give a shit that I now realize like maybe it's unhealthy to love an artist to that degree. You're not beating the A-worded allegations. I don't know. But I understand it. For the record, I understand why people are like that. I don't have an issue with that. Like, I'm not shitting on them. I'm not like, I care about things that are more important or anything like that. I'm not saying that. Instead, you stand LeBron. Okay, like, I do, but, you know, not to this. Like, I don't have posters of LeBron. I just think that he's the GOAT, which he is. So I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. It's not like I follow him around and I'm, like, constantly thinking about him or anything. I just think he's great. I think he's the GOAT, which he is, both in his private life and also in his private affairs, and also, you know, on the basketball court where it matters.
That we all relate to. But to have this expectation that this grieving man is going to do something other than phone it in. Baby, taper your expectations. Because he's never given that. Ever. Now, I am someone who believes in extending grace when you can. And I do believe Frank Ocean deserves some grace because he did lose his brother. And he did speak about how he and his brother would always go to Coachella, despite him quite literally hating the festival. And I even get why he agreed to perform, because it was his brother's favorite event for them to go to. But this was just a mess all around. And it's really sad to see so many people be negatively affected by this. Not just the fans, but also Frank. I'm sure he's seeing this online right now, after he probably thinks he gave a very emotional performance and really did something that was difficult for him. But also Coachella seeing the negative reaction to this, knowing they have a whole nother weekend to go. For what it's worth, I really do believe he was trying his best to push through. But I think the pressure of it all, the expectations set on him after 6 years of absence, dealing with the grief of his brother, and honestly not having any new music to promote or put on, really just made this a
lot of people gotta work after
of
their brother
unfortunate
dies,
events.
though.
And that's why
Like,
we got what we got. I'm hoping that
This is crazy. Saw this TikTok about the performance.
The other mess and mayhem of the Frank Ocean set last night, closing out weekend one of Coachella, is making its way on the timelines. I've seen so many videos of people at the festival, whether they're VIP.
Bro, if you're writing this level of fanfic about a dude who you don't know the background of, like about a dude you don't know personally, to like justify his actions, I don't know what to tell you. Like you're on the sauce, you know? You have gone far beyond. I don't know what it is. I don't know what kind of level of copium this is. It's like nuclear grade. It's crazy. It's actually not. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's a lot of clicks for this shit right now, so I get it. No, I don't think that's not. It's not just the clicks, dude. I mean,
coming out.
All fandoms always make up shit to connect the very few dots that they have. Yeah. It's very interesting. In the age of like parasocial content, it's very interesting to see the less people give, the less like artists give, the more fandoms go crazy over it because it's in their minds. It's like the dream phenomena. People were left to basically imagine what dream looks like in their minds. You know what I mean? Until the face reveal. And that's one aspect of it. Like, the more private you are as a content creator, the more people project their own desires onto who you are. And I think Frank Ocean's fandom suffers from that a little bit. They fill all the gaps. They fill in the gaps with all the info they lacked. Yeah. And every aspect of that, all the gaps that fandoms have, the way they're filling it is not through like deductive reasoning or anything. They're filling it with their own personal fantasies of who this person is, and therefore the real person can never meet that expectation. So when push comes to shove, and you are faced with the reality of who this person that you have like imagined actually is, you either double down and go way beyond, where you go above and beyond to justify bad actions that they're doing, and you're like, oh, there has to be a reason for this, or you become a massive hater. That's the other side of it. That's the fallen Hassan fan you know, the Hassan stand to Hassan hater pipeline as well, where people just like become these like unhinged haters after a long time. Why? Because I didn't fucking respond to one of their comments in the chat. You know what I mean?
Oh damn, this is a 40-minute video. We're not finishing this.
There's been some chatter recently that Chris Christie might run a kamikaze presidential campaign simply to take down Donald Trump. Because he knows, hey, you got all these other candidates, they're all cucks. They all have to walk this fine line between trying to appeal to the Trump base but also getting normal people, which is actually kind of a difficult thing to do if you think about it. And so Chris Christie has considered, well, what if I run for president and I'm a total kamikaze, I'm not trying to win, and I just spend all my time absolutely obliterating Donald Trump? Look, I know the initial reaction some people might feel when they hear that is like, Trump is going to eat this guy for lunch. But you're forgetting something. Chris Christie is the original Donald Trump. Chris Christie, when he was governor of New Jersey, he'd yell at like 17 people a day. It would always be a news story. And Christie, when he ran for president the last time, he was walking on eggshells because he was listening to his advisors, and they said, look, you can't be yourself. You got to tune it in. Tune it in. You got to tone it down. You got to reel it in. You got to, you know, be more of a normal politician. He listened to them for far too long. He ended up doing horribly. Only at the very end did he really unleash, and he unleashed on behalf of Trump because he made a deal with Trump. Hey, I'll be in your administration, right? And Trump was like, okay, torpedo Marco Rubio. Like, go after these people for me. And Christie did that. Now, you know what ended up happening? Trump stabbed Chris Christie in the back because Christie was coming to Trump. He wanted to be VP, by the way. Not only did he not get VP, he didn't even get a position in the administration. Why? Because Chris Christie had put Jared Kushner's dad, who was a criminal, in jail. He prosecuted him. Okay, so that came back to bite him in the ass. Well, Chris Christie is a guy who doesn't let a grudge go easy. As we know from the whole Bridgegate scandal, remember that? He shut down the whole bridge over some personal feud. So it looks like he's going to run for president. Now, I'd love to see it, right? I would love to see it. I'd love to see Chris Christie torpedo Donald Trump. I think Christie would be vicious, and he wouldn't stop. He would just keep going, and so it'd be fun. It'd just be fun to see. And Trump would have to scramble to handle it, but I'm sure Trump would try his best to handle it and fire back aggressively. You'd have two grown men yelling at each other like, you know, roided-up high school testosterone-fueled freaks. Okay. Well, this was interesting. Chris Christie, doing an interview with Semaphore, he took some pretty clear shots here at Ron DeSantis as well. Let's listen, and then I'll break it down.
Contribution and arguments. How about Ron DeSantis and Disney?
Well, there's so much there. Like, so let's start off with this. I'm a conservative, and I believe as a conservative, the job of government is in the main to stay out of the business of business. Like, I don't think we should be heavily regulating business. I don't think we should be telling business what to do, what to say, how to think. And I believe that's what conservatives have believed for as long as I've been alive. I don't think Ron DeSantis is a conservative based on his actions towards Disney. I mean, you know, where are we headed here now? That if you express disagreement in this country, the government is allowed to punish you? To me, that's what I always thought liberals did. And now all of a sudden, here we are participating in this with a Republican governor. And the second piece of it is, like, part of I'm all for the appropriate use of governmental power to achieve laudable goals. And when you're the governor of a state, and our governorship is constitutionally the most powerful governorship in the country, the New Jersey governorship has enormous authority. And I loved using the levers of that authority to be able to accomplish things. But when you put someone in that position, or like a position of president, if you're going to use those levers, you've got to look around the corners to see what the result of that'll be. For him to have taken the action he took against Disney, and to not have foreseen that Disney was going to do what they did in response, which was to completely take over the millions and millions of acres and the zoning decisions on that before they got the authority, well, I'll tell you this much. That's not the guy I want sitting across from President Xi and negotiating our next agreement with China, or sitting across from Putin and trying to resolve what's happening in Ukraine, if you can't see around a corner that Bob Iger created for you.
Damn. So what he's referring to there at the end is, you know, Ron DeSantis has had it out for Disney. He's gone after Disney. He did some political moves to basically try to have the state take over, like, the board that runs Disney. And so he's trying to defang them, effectively. And he thought he successfully did it. But at the last minute, Disney flexed their power, and they were able to do a little jujitsu move where they retained all the power. Like, they took the power away from the state officials, the board that DeSantis was putting in to run Disney. And Disney was like, and they basically defanged the power of that board. They retained power for decision making, and you know, I'm really simplifying this, but that's the gist of what happened. And you know, Ron DeSantis got a little bit of a lesson here in who really has the power and the control in America. Honestly, it is more the corporations than it is the government. I mean, the government has tremendous authority, but they're usually flexing that authority on behalf of the corporations, and when they're not doing that, the corporations find a way to get the upper hand. And that's why you had this clip that just went viral of Ron DeSantis basically doing a press conference and saying, maybe we'll build a state prison right next to, you know, Disney. Or, in other words, he's like, I'm going to retaliate in one way or another because of what happened here. I don't know if this is a political battle that Ron DeSantis can win, because again, Disney and every major corporation has tremendous power and authority, and again, DeSantis did not outmaneuver Disney. Disney outmaneuvered DeSantis. Okay, so this is what Chris Christie's pointing out. Now, that, you know, it's a fair point, right? Like, you couldn't outwit Bob Iger, but you think you're gonna outwit, like, you know, Putin or Xi or whoever. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Seems like you should have been able to outmaneuver Bob Iger, right? But his other point was like, I don't think Ron DeSantis is conservative. And from his perspective, he goes, conservatives are in favor of business, basically live and let live. They do what they want. The government shouldn't interfere unless they absolutely have to. And they didn't have to interfere here, but DeSantis did. So he's saying that's really not conservatism. Look, I understand the point he's making, but they're different definitions and perspectives on what is conservatism. And Christie's going with the traditional view of conservatism of, like, small government, don't get in the way of business. That's one view of conservatism. So by that definition, yes, Christie is more conservative than Ron DeSantis. Another view of conservatism is preserving tradition. And that's the argument Ron DeSantis would make vis-a-vis Disney from his perspective. He would argue, I think Disney is not respecting tradition by doing whatever LGBTQ Pride Day or whatever they're mad about. I mean, they wake up, Ben Shapiro was ranting against, I hear that in the next Frozen, one of the characters will be gay, and I'm outraged, they're going to be a lesbian. So they would argue, oh, you're not respecting tradition because you're, you know, accepting and tolerating LGBTQ identity, so now I will use the power of government to try to force you to be more traditional, be more conservative, be more anti-gay, right? Like, so there are different definitions of conservatism. One is respecting tradition, and he's using the state to enforce that. That's one idea of conservatism. Another one is small government, don't interfere with business. So I get his argument, but it's, you know, that one's a little bit hollow. And by the way, on the principle of, he's like, should let business do their thing. You shouldn't, though, right? Like, you shouldn't. As a general rule, the government should be there as a referee. Now, it just so happens, Ron DeSantis is using the power of government, in this instance, incorrectly and wrongly, and it's bad that he's flexing state power to try to control Disney over these sorts of disagreements, right? Over, hey, you tolerate gay people. Like, that's not the right way to use government power, but on the principle of using government power to regulate business, well, yeah, I think any reasonable person would agree to at least some of that, right? Like, even if you're conservative, you can say, I think building codes are good, right? Like, I don't want a building to collapse in on me if there's an earthquake or if there's a hurricane or whatever, if there's a strong storm. Building codes are good. That's one way government gets involved in the private market and with private businesses to try to regulate and protect for everybody. You know, taxing corporations, that's a good thing. But look, now he's going after DeSantis too. I don't know, man. Maybe his kamikaze campaign, he's convinced himself in his own mind. Maybe it's not a kamikaze campaign. Maybe I think I can win. Which, LOL, you can't, Chris Christie. But I still love the idea of him running just to cause a mess, just to make everybody fight, just to go after everybody viciously. I would enjoy that. And we're starting to see the beginning of that right here. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click.
Alrighty. I'm ending the stream. I know. Oh my god. It so sucks. I gotta do it. I'm tired. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I'm ending it.